Hello and welcome to the Reasonably Effective Podcast. This is episode 16, brought to you by myself, Uncommon Fossil, my partner, 10 Types.
Hello, everyone.
So, 10 Types, how has your week in terms of Pokemon been going?
It's been fine. I've been looking at the new card reveals, which are kind of bad, honestly. They're not very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't been doing too much. I haven't been playing as much Pokemon. I've been looking at other formats. I'm getting a little bored of Standard right now.
Mm.
Um, and so I've been looking at some other stuff. It's just been a busy weekend for me in general, so I haven't had as much time to play Pokemon.
Yeah.
But it's been fine, I'd say. And how's your week been?
I've been going pretty well. I kind of hit a point of a little bit of boredom with Standard myself, and I started playing some Expanded, which actually has been fun. Did a few decks with that. Started with everybody's favorite deck to play or hate, ADP, and then some other ones. And it's kind of nice. It's a different expanded format than the full version. And so you're on your own to make up decks, so there's no the meta is obviously is not solved at all. So it's fun in that regard. And then I also took a look at some of the new products that came out on the in-game store, including the Palkia League Battle deck, which is a good deck if you don't have the cards, but kind of looked at what things you should buy or not buy. There are a couple packets with some cards in some packs. The general rule of thumb held true with that something like that, don't buy the product in the store, rather just craft the cards if you the individual cards if you want them. And then there are some decks, a couple EX battle decks. Lucaria was one, and I don't remember the other one off the top of my head.
Ampharos.
And Ampharos, which are, they're not great decks, but that they're kind of the replacement for theme decks. If you really want those decks, you don't have the cards, buying it in store is good. Because you don't get a lot of those cards in the starter decks, but by the time you've completed the battle pass, you've probably pulled enough cards that you could just craft them individually if you want them. Again, they're not super powerful. The Palkia League Battle deck is obviously a very good deck, but you have the Palkia starter deck, so you really shouldn't buy the deck. Just if you're missing a few of the cards, just craft them. That's a much cheaper way to do it. So kind of that's the overview of the economy there. So it's been a decent week. Like I said, I've been playing more Expanded, which has been fun. Of course, you can't play in ranked format, which means you get odd matchups there. So the big news this week, I think, in Pokemon Online world is PTCGO is officially sunsetting. It kind of soft sunsetted when they when they announced they weren't going to put Scarlet and Violet cards in it, but it still existed. And actually, that is up even as of today, the time of recording, is the official version of online client for it, not live. If you create I did this the other day after the announcement, if you go to create a new player, a PTCGO, play PTCGO account, then it tells you, okay, you're ready to download the game and play it, and they send you to link you to PTCGO, not to live. So, because live is still in beta, but PTCGO is going away, and then a couple days later, the live goes out of beta, it becomes the full product, no more beta in it. So I think we wanted to.
So there's a time when live will be in beta, but there's no PTCGO?
I guess so. I think it happens. It's either 2 or 3 days. I don't remember. It's on a Thursday when live goes out of beta. It's either the Monday or the Tuesday when PTCGO sunsets. I'm not sure if we actually don't, for a period of time, actually lose the ability to play Pokemon Online completely. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, hopefully not. And do you know when the new set comes out, how
Oh,
they evolved?
yeah,
Is
that's
that
a good question. It's that same day that live goes out of beta. So, which
So I'm
hopefully
sure it'll work very well.
they either are very foolish or very confident here, because usually when a new set drops, they have a lot of problems, as you're aware and our audience is aware. So all of a sudden going out of beta at a time when new problems will probably arise is a bold move, we'll say, on their part.
Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping this will mean, because they said they're gonna, when they stop supporting PTCGO, they're gonna start devoting more resources to live.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's when they're gonna start devoting more resources to live, because so far they haven't really done that, as far as I know. Certainly haven't seen that what resources have been devoted to live.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they have increased the resources from their standpoint, because
They have?
I think Pokemon would say they have, yes. We haven't seen a lot of it,
Oh yeah,
but
they changed like the prize card taking animation again with the recent update, I think.
they might have. They often make insignificant visual changes, but leave the glitches in the game there. I will. The one plus though is what I'll say when they did the last update, which I think was like a week ago, it caused a problem and you couldn't matchmake it front. So that's not a positive. But the good news was within an hour, I think they fixed it, and that's the first time there was a problem, and they fixed it right away. So
No,
that
I think the reason that happened was they were updating it. It was from like 8 to like 4 or something in the day.
yeah.
Then they let you play on it like at 2, but then I think they were still
Oh.
working on it as you were playing it. So it just was really like bad. So I think they didn't actually fix anything. I just think they finished updating it.
Oh,
I
so
think
they
they
okay.
yeah.
So they made a mistake by letting us access it while it was still being updated, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's what was happening.
That could
So they did
be.
not really like fix it. They just messed up.
It could be. I'm being more generous, but I guess what we want to talk about here, I think, is PTCGO and live and things we'd like to see in live. Is that kind of our topic for this podcast?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think there's enough to say about that and I'm sure you're all everyone listening is going to listen for long periods of time to us talk about live, right? And everyone's going to subscribe, right?
Yep, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Like us on the podcast app and on YouTube and all that stuff. Yes, I'm sure people can't get enough about live. Um, now, one of the things which doesn't have to do with the game itself, but if you've been playing live, you're also aware when the announcement came out about the change with the PTCGO sunsetting and stuff, they gave you the reward. You logged in and you saw you got the new deck box and sleeve and coin, and you were like, that was their big thank you for being part of the beta. And I'm sure everybody felt overwhelming satisfaction that this was a reasonable payout for all the grief we've had to go through. But Pokemon really is pushing this. I think I've seen multiple places where this is the big celebration of the beta with these cosmetic products. So I'm sure you're pretty happy about it too.
Or no, I don't know why like it's pretty like bad, especially and I think this was them especially people who have been here for like a year or something.
Yeah.
Especially like I believe it started in Canada. Like if you're a Canadian player and you like got into the game early and then you had to deal with this for like a year or like over a
Yeah.
year, and then you just get that. That's like really bad. They also did previously give us like the World Championship decks, or I don't think they were all World Championship decks. I think like 2 or 3 of them were,
Right.
which was like fine. I mean that's like a solid reward, but it's not like it's not worth like a year of pain. But like it's okay. But then the sleeves and deck box and just coin. That's kind of like sad. I don't know why. Like it's not awful to have some celebration of it,
Right.
and that's not a bad thing. But I don't. It's not a reward either.
No, I think they should understand that live beta has been an ugly process, and they should just kind of try to keep things uh, low keyed for this. But I will say on the positive side, first, anytime that you get something for free, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and they are. I like the look of them. I think they are attractive. Doesn't mean that people should play them. Now, when we first got them, I thought it was amusing that we got them, and I threw them on a number of decks. And then all of a sudden, I found out a lot of other people were playing them too, and I found that to be once I realized that, I had to stop doing it. That was disconcerting that a lot of other people seemed to be doing it. So anyway,
Yeah, I feel like you can play them like ironically, but that's about it.
right. But once it was like happening too much, it seemed to lose the irony to me. So I
Yeah,
perhaps I think in the future, this is might be a badge of honor that we suffered through this time period, right? So that's how I look at it. In a few years from now, because what I will say is I think in a year or two, live will be okay. It's unfortunate that I think it's going to take that long. It will get there. So hopefully the trauma
hopefully.
will be reduced. That we won't feel the trauma so much at that point. But I think we want to talk about what things we want to see in live, both from things that PTCGO has right now that live just hasn't been able to incorporate. Plus, quite frankly, it should have things beyond PTCGO. Otherwise, it's not worth all this bother, right?
Yeah, because when Live was announced, people were like really down on PTCGO.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess I'll say So I'll go through the history of this a little bit.
Hmm.
This was, if some of you remember, the Players Cups,
Yep.
um, which are like major tournaments. They were essentially the only tournament. From my Pokemon, this was during COVID, so there weren't any in-person events. And of course, the online scene was like the main way to play, and it still, to a large extent, is the main way to play. They did a few of these Players Cup tournaments. They did 4 of them, and then they stopped pretty much. So
Hmm.
and then they were like, okay, we're doing this really cool thing called Draft the Worlds, which is it was celebrating essentially Pokemon's history. I don't remember how like far back it went, but it was around 8 years of World Championship format decks. And so you got to see like some top players and content creator. Or I think there were, I don't know, we saw a number of top players and content creators play in that. It was
Hmm.
pretty fun. Um, and people were like wondering, but it was announced, so people were wondering how it was going to happen because it's not necessarily easy to do on PTCGO, especially because, of course, if you want to play an older format, you could do it in like expanded or unlimited, but it's with the current standard rules. So people were thinking, and then Pokemon had some rumors of a new client launching. This,
Yep.
of course, being live. So then everyone was thinking, oh wow, so live is gonna be like super awesome. It's gonna support older formats, older like Worlds formats or
Hmm.
whatever, or at least in some way older rules. And people were like really thinking that was like the thing that was going to happen in live. Of course, that didn't happen in live. In fact, older formats are less accessible than they were before. But yeah, that's where like the hype began for live.
Yeah, and people were very excited about live. I think they leaked. They kind of invited some of the prominent content creators to their own little online presentation, gave them some videos and some clips that the content creators could put out, and the word got out pretty quickly. People were excited. People were unhappy with PTCGO about how bugs weren't getting fixed fast enough. That may seem rather absurd at this point when as we've seen how much worse it has been with live, but the thought was that since Pokemon will be doing it themselves rather than Direwolf, a third party company, whenever an issue comes up it can get resolved quickly, because like during the Players Cup 4, which I participated in, and I put together an Eternus deck if I recall during it, and I put together a deck, and it included the Hoopa that right when it swings into the active does 90 damage for 1 energy. So okay, that was in the deck, and I built the deck, and then the very next day it was banned from PTCGO because there was a glitch in it. It could always attack whether it swung it or not. So the thought was issues like that are going to go away. We'll be in a much better world with Pokemon running things themselves.
Yeah, and people were very unhappy with Direwolf, the company that made Pokemon TCG Online as well.
Hmm.
In fact, they were quite mean.
Yeah.
I think I don't remember. I remember hearing that. I don't know if that's true, but I mean, it was Twitter, so you know. But and so like live, was I don't remember the timeline. But it didn't come out for a little while, and it came
Yeah.
out in a limited beta um for only Canadian players, and then a number of like not Canadians like just started to like do it. I don't know like why. I mean, they were hyped, so I guess that's why. But it was not very good, unsurprisingly. If you
Yeah.
know the state it was in, it was definitely worse than it was now. But then
Mhm.
yeah, and then these players like migrated, and then they um and then they like didn't work, and then they like started complaining. Uh, and that was something. And eventually the beta got expanded, and
Mhm.
I believe the global beta has it been a year, or am I just
I
imagining
think
things?
yeah, I think it's been a little over a year with the global beta. So, or no, or well, now I'm getting a little
I think
confused
that's
about the
true. I think
timeline.
that's yeah. I think it's been global beta for like a year. It was in like limited beta for
What, like six
um.
months or something?
I
I
think
think
it was over. It was less than a year, but it was close to a
it
year,
was.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that's pretty much the timeline. And then um, so it's gonna come out of beta presumably in like a month, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited. I'm hoping, as I said, that it means they're actually gonna devote more resources to live. Because it's really been like every time they update it, obviously there've been like bugs. Like pretty much every update, they're really like notable bad bugs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then every time they update it, they always, as we said, choose to update like not important things. Notably,
Yeah.
we've seen like visuals updated, and they're even like every time they're updated, they're not better. Sometimes they're worse. Sometimes they're better.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're worse. Sometimes they add more bugs to the visuals, and then also like no one really cares, right? Like, I mean, some people care a little bit, but compared to like the game working and being able to like play it, that's obviously much less important.
Yeah.
To live, but it's more important to players, but to the the Pokemon people, apparently they just don't really care.
Yeah. I mean, look, yeah, somewhere along the decision making chain, there's I don't know, a very confusion about what's important, right? Because they seem to like devoting an over amount of resources towards these visual changes of like what the animations are when the prize cards are taken or when a new Pokemon becomes active. But they leave, the glitches that there had been from the very beginning in game and don't bother addressing it. So,
And like visual stuff, I'd say does separate like a good game from a great game,
yeah,
but what makes something a good game is that it like works, and they haven't, it won't put a bad game to a good game. It's still bad. Um,
right.
the gameplay should be number one.
Yeah, I mean, my general thought is with this whole process, they've been one step too far in what they're doing. Meaning, when they made the announcement that Live was coming out, they should have waited because the announcement came out, and then a month or two later, they had to say, "Well, hold on, we're not ready to do it yet." So they should have waited to announce. And then when the beta went to Canada, the game was still pretty much unplayable. Like you said, it should have been an alpha, just a in-house product that they were testing. Once it became a global beta, that's when it should have been a limited beta. At this point, it's going to go out of out of beta altogether. Probably that this is the point it's at where it should be a global beta. In like I said, I don't think it's probably not for another year or so that it's actually going to be a solid product. That's my
Y-
anticipation.
Yeah, right now I definitely describe the game as a passable beta. It's not like I mean I'm playing it right. It's not
Yeah.
great. It's kind of still kind of bad. But it's like it's something. It's presentable. But not as like a final game. Oh, and by the way, I guess now's a good time any to mention. Of course, it's intended to be. It's like a PTCGO's only like a. You can't play it on mobile. Is what I'm saying. But then live was
Right.
like advertised to be playable on mobile. And it is right. It's kind of bad, but the
Mm-hmm.
big issue is that like performance issues. I got my friend. I was like, yo, you should play live on your phone, and then he downloaded it, and then he played like one game, and like he was down like 20% battery or something on like a very very solid phone. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not great.
Yeah, I mean, I can play like a half hour on my phone, and then at that point, it's used enough battery and it's gotten hot enough. I need to shut down. That's with an Android phone. I think the iPhones may be worse. I'm not sure. And I have a tablet that's a mediocre tablet, but I can play PTCGO on it just fine. And I can't play live is essentially unplayable. The lag and such is just brutal. So they've done a very poor job of making it mobile friendly. And including the fact that it's in portrait mode for playing on your phone, which doesn't seem very intuitive.
Yeah. Oh, and one thing. Again, another debatably the biggest issue is like disconnecting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And some people might like jump to conclusions, just say like, oh yeah, no, it's the player's fault because you have bad internet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, PTCGO generally lag, I'd say, isn't an issue. There were some disconnections. But really,
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely like you shouldn't be like crashing out and like lagging out of turns all the time. Like even I have it, and I have like solid internet,
Mm-hmm.
and I have like a solid, good computer. And I know you've had like connection issues as well, right? Where like games have crashed and stuff.
It happens some.
Some,
I seem to have it
not
less
too
than
often, but
you, but yes, it does happen. It does seem like it's a server side issue with Pokemon, I think, which
yeah,
leads to that frustration because you don't know if like your opponent has quit or not at times, right? So it's just not been good. And again, that's the type of stuff I guess you can is a beta. I'm willing to say okay, they're sorting it out, but once it's out of beta, I expect all that stuff to go away. I mean, I don't expect it to go away, but I'm going to be much more unhappy, I guess, is what I'd say.
yeah. I think I hope they can like take account at least take accountability for their actions.
Hmm.
Once it's out of beta, because like they really have like been acting like it's relatively okay, and it's like not.
Yeah.
So Yeah, but I think we really need to talk about what we want in live now because we've been complaining for like 20 minutes. So,
Okay.
um, oh, one thing though, I actually want to say, I told you this before the podcast, but I discovered something. This may actually be something you already know, but so you're in live right now, right?
Yes, I am.
So tell me how you would, and for all the visual like watchers, you can see, but we'll describe it as we go along as well. So how would you get to making an expanded deck?
Yeah, I mean the deck builder is one of the things that's not good in general, but so and expand is particularly difficult. You go to the home screen and then you click on casual rank, just to the left. Casual is is to the right of that, and then once you're in casual, you have to click. If it says standard, you have to click that tab, and then expanded beta will come to the top. And then
Yeah,
once you've done that, then you click on the decks, and um, within that, although it
you
doesn't,
can like create.
then you can. Oh, I scrolled down, and then you can click on create a deck, and it will be. It gives you this create a deck for the expanded format. So that's the process. Just very not exactly smooth and
Yeah.
easy.
So it's actually easier than that. It's not that much easier, but this
Oh,
one
is
step
go
I
ahead.
as I was looking at it, I actually has the same number of clicks, but you can go to just casual
Yeah.
and click on even if you're in staring, press create decks, and you see in the top left it says standard or expanded.
Um. Oh, I see. Right. Standard is
Yeah, and
highlight,
you
oh, if I click that standard, it goes to
yeah,
expanded.
yeah. So that's kind of nice. I'm assuming
Okay.
if they had, you can't do that in ranked, but there is no
Hmm.
like expanded and ranked. It's kind of strange. But that, yeah, I don't know. That's actually like kind of cool. Like they have these cool features, but they're kind of random. But I do like them. Like for example, the lives rock paper scissors is like really good for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and stuff like that. But it's just some random stuff. But that's kind of fun. I like that they have these like cool things. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, onto things that I wish it would do better. And this is something that it's kind of weird, but I wish the art style was Pokemon, right? So
Okay. What do you mean by
when you look
that?
at your huh?
What do you mean? What are you thinking?
So like when you look at your trainer or whatever, this like it just looks like it could be from anything, right? Like the your profile and stuff.
Okay.
Um, like it would be cool if the and like the emotes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing in PTCGO where it's not Pokemon based. Sure, you can put on like you can put on a shirt with like a fire energy or dark energy symbol on it, but
Right.
like or even a Pokeball, but it's still very generic. And the Pokemon has super like iconic is like a super iconic franchise, and I wish they'd
Yeah.
like embrace that. And like with so I played Marvel Snap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so there are a lot of like memes online, and so they actually have that as one of the emotes have like the Spider-Man meme, which I'm sure you're very familiar with, right? Right.
Not exactly, but sure,
Uh,
I'll say yes.
yeah, it was in the it appeared in the Spider-Man movie as well. Was in the no, I don't think it was actually in the movie. I think it was just in the clip. But anyways,
Okay.
so yeah, they have like these memes, and of course Pokemon has memes as well.
Yeah.
And that'd be cool if they like include that. Of course, like some of the funny Pokemon, they probably shouldn't include like Gulpin, Gardevoir, Slugma. Those are like funny Pokemon, but they probably
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't include those. But and same thing with like Amoonguss. That's like a reference to a game that they don't own. But there are certainly like there's a Shock Pikachu. There's I can't think of other ones, but there are certainly ways that they could incorporate Pokemon into a Pokemon game. When you load up a Pokemon game, it feels like you're playing any other game, except it happens to be with Pokemon cards. But like the board isn't.
Mm-hmm.
The board does have some interesting aspects. Like with the board changing for types is kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's not. It's like too much though. It's not like a Pokemon Battlefield. I don't remember the term for it off the top of my head, but it doesn't look like a Pokemon Battlefield or Stadium, which I think would I mean it sometimes does, but sometimes doesn't. If they really embrace that aspect, that would be cool. And also like if they had the characters, like someone said, if you could have your avatar as like Misty or
Mm-hmm.
Brock or Ash, even that'd be like that would make sense and that'd be cool. And
Yeah.
you just can't do that. So I'm wondering if they might not have the like license, but they
Yeah.
should. If it's Pokemon, they should. And it is like
It.
because now like it's made by Pokemon.
Yeah. I mean, the one question where it gets very confusing is this is the Pokemon Company International, and what do they have the rights to versus other things, right? Or would they have to? I don't know all those arrangements. It gets a little weird, but yeah, they certainly could be given that access if they're not allowed to do it now. Um, but I think they like it trying to be that you're the trainer, right? So they want to make it look like you're supposed to make it look like yourself, so put you in the game. Although that's not how the video game works. So, right?
Wait, what?
Do you
Yeah, it
customize your
is.
person in the video
Yeah,
game?
you played Pokemon Scarlet and you
I,
customized your character.
all
It's
right.
kind of like that, but I still think. I mean, this isn't. I get the idea of trying to be like the trainer, but it's still weird. And also, like, for example, the like, what is it? Oh, the poses are like really bad, which is kind of
Yes.
funny. They're like impressively bad. So
Yeah, and the fact that you can't turn the that stuff off, especially at the end, like if you have a game where your opponent like was spamming emotes at you, and you can't shut off the emotes now, right? Which you could at least you could shut them off in PTCGO. Your opponent might spam emotes at you, drag out the game if they're annoyed with you, right? Delaying all their
yeah,
plays, and then and if they win, you have to watch them do their flex pose with their expression for another like 15 seconds. It's just not a fun experience there.
yeah, I definitely think it's not great. Again, I've talked about Marvel Snap before, and one of the things that's like not fun is the conceding aspect as well, which is kind of weird. I'm not saying that Pokemon should necessarily handle it how Marvel Snap has, but like people just like they concede at like the worst possible time, and they know it's the
Hmm.
worst possible time for you because they're doing it just to spite you. And I'll admit I do concede as well, and I like try not to, but yeah, it's just part of like the culture, which is like not good. That it's a toxic game. Versus like Marvel Snap, they do it where actually conceding is a part of the game. So that anytime someone concedes, it's not about being toxic. It's about like playing the game, which is kind of nice. And it doesn't. It's honestly like really hard to be toxic in Marvel Snap, or it's really hard to for something to come across as toxic. And PTCGO, everything came across as toxic, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Now people are being less toxic because most of the time they're emoting. It's because the game's like crashed or something.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's like the game freezes and then they make like a shrug face and then you make a shrug face back. Um, but they'll still sometimes spam emotes if they want to be toxic. So I don't know what Pokemon can do about that. They removed the report feature. Um,
Yeah.
which is fine. I mean, they didn't really care, I don't think. And obviously, it's like a lot to deal with, and it's hard to like track properly. But it's just I wish there was some way of like making the game healthier. One thing that PTCGO has that Live doesn't is the like chat boards or whatever,
Hmm.
the message boards.
Right.
In game we can like talk. They weren't used too much, and obviously there are many reasons that could go like wrong, but I don't know. The way to interact with people is bad. Oh, and you can't challenge and expanded. That's really weird too.
Yeah.
That's obviously a problem.
Right. Both for being able to play expanded games or something like GLC or any other alternate, any format that wants to use anything beyond the standard uh, cards. You can't do that with anyone else. And of course, you can't get ranked either. So I'm enjoying the expanded. You get a lot of random decks too, and you have no control over that. So that's needs to get addressed there. I do think in terms of the conceding, they've done some things though that have helped. The way the battle pass is structured, if you concede early, you don't get many points. So it encourages people to keep playing the game some, which I think is I think they tried to make a good decision. It's still it's certainly
I
not
guess, but then it makes
perfect.
it also hurts your opponent when you concede. So like
It
people, and
does.
I've seen this. I played Smash Bros. And Smash Bros has a system called I don't remember what it's called. I was gonna say like GDP or GPS. It's not that. It's GSP. Yeah, GSP, Global Smash Power, which is like an ELO or
Hmm.
just a whatever ranking. I don't, what's it called in live?
Well, I don't know. I guess Elo, but it doesn't have anything official.
Yeah.
I don't
Anyways,
your rank, I guess, but I'm not sure if the matchmaking and the rank how that matches up either. So.
yeah. But then so it's kind of similar. Like if you win, you get points. If you lose
Hmm.
points. That's very common.
Yeah.
But then if you quit because you're quitting, that's like bad. So you lose points if you quit.
Hmm.
But then your opponent doesn't gain any points. So people just quit all the time, which is like so toxic because it hurts them, but then it also hurts you. So that so literally it's a system that makes it worse for everyone, which is kind of what Pokemon has here too. Where conceding is of course bad for the player who concedes, but it also hurts the other player. And I think any experience that makes the game worse for both players is just not like that shouldn't be a thing in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I generally agree with you. I think people there's times like I have game on board and the person goes through their whole turn like eight moves and then they hit into me, not which doesn't knock me out and I just counter for game and then they attack and they concede. It's like why did you just do waste all your times there, right? That doesn't do
Yeah.
anybody any good. Um, but there are people because looking at the comments that people make. There are people that get annoyed by people not conceding when they're going to lose too, right? So there are two perspectives on that, I will say. But
Yeah, I don't think that to me that doesn't make sense. Like I feel like it's a game that you're playing, so you should play the game.
hmm
I do get conceding when you're gonna lose. But if you shouldn't be regardless, neither of those mentalities would like explain playing through your whole turn and then like conceding. That doesn't
right,
really make. I do get the idea of like going after a challenge, and that's fair. Um, but sometimes they're clearly like it's not for a challenge, right? They just play stuff to waste time.
it might be.
Um, I can remember I was watching you play a game and I believe your opponent, like you were gonna win, and then your opponent like went through their whole timer, like they went through the whole 25 minutes, which is bad, right?
Yeah,
And did not fun.
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, you were playing control, but still,
yeah. If you play a stall deck or control deck, the people get annoyed. But that's its own a separate issue. I mean, perhaps when you concede, there should be an extra penalty beyond losing for it. Maybe that's something to consider. But it's certainly a tricky
like
thing.
you have to like pay real run money.
Well, I don't think we want that, but maybe because even when you concede, you still get some points to the battle pass. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe your opponent should get your points or something. I'm not sure. I don't know what would be healthy there, but it's a something to consider. But there certainly are other issues that just need to get addressed. Um, I want to just talk about a couple of things that PTCGO has that Live needs, right? Because when Live first came out, we expected it to have all the good features of PTCGO, and they can't do that. Like you have the win rates for your decks in PTCGO, because sometimes I like to go through the decks, what to play, and you look through
those
what's it.
didn't work quite right, by the way, but
It,
better than it does in live where you get paired against people. You get paired against multiple people at the same time, but
well, yeah, the
yeah.
matchmaking there is not. I think they fixed that in the last update, but I'm not sure. But even yes, it had its flaws because it would reset randomly. But but you could get a good sense of how your decks were performing, which is useful, right? And again, it's easy to do, but they don't have that. You can see your overall win rate, I think, for every game you've played. But it's nice to see it for decks. Um, and getting back to the other log, the game log is to me one of the biggest things they need to get in here, right? What did my opponent
Yeah.
play from I'll put in here who won the coin toss too, because if you miss that, good luck to you, right? That should be
Yeah.
in the game log. And what
Yeah,
cards are
when it doesn't show you what they recover from the discard, yeah.
right. And some things, right? They'll show you some things if it says to reveal it on the card, and hopefully you see it. But if of course you missed it, then you can't look at the game log. And for some things that it doesn't say reveal, like a
Most things don't say reveal.
yeah, like an ordinary. If it goes from the discard back to your deck, it doesn't say reveal it. It just happens, and it may show up briefly or not at all, so you have no idea what they recovered. And on PTCGO, they'd show you the game log you could check. So they need to get that feature in for sure. Would help out a lot, as well as you see comments of I don't know why this happened when I did less damage or they did more damage, and occasionally I'll make a mistake like that too, and it's nice to be able to look at the game log and see, okay, I see what happened, I see what my mistake was.
Yeah, especially for newer players. Like um cards like Vigo Energy, Radiant Guard Roar, like reducing damage, obviously that's like what they do, but
Right.
newer players aren't necessarily as familiar with those actions. Oh, and if you don't know, there's a live forums post, which I'm not sure if it's actually read officially.
hmm
It's very much implied that it's being read. It's
Oh
definitely an
yeah.
official post, but I don't know if they actually check it. But yeah, you see people all the time going like, what happened? My Pokemon was KO'd, or like I didn't KO them, and it's just they had V-Guard energy on or something. And people are like, oh, I don't know if that was happening because I like you don't know what to look for as a new player to see those
Right.
things.
Right.
So like if I like there are definitely times I had attack and I'm like, oh wait, why didn't that like KO? And then I'm like, oh, they have something. Usually not something like V-Guard, especially because it tells you the damage, which is really nice. But
Hmm.
yeah, you just need to be like a game log would help that out a lot.
Yeah. Now, one of the things you mentioned, I do like the fact that it shows you the damage you'll do or a range of damage if you have the option. And it's I think it's good for it's certainly it's designed I think for new players, which is a plus. But it doesn't show you what your opponent's attack's going to do at time, which I would think it should do that, right? It's because it's showing your opponent, I assume, when they look at it, what it would do, but it doesn't
Yeah.
do the calculations for me. So I'm at times it would be helpful for me if it told me what I'd be getting, especially if they played like a rope, then I could take that into account with the switching.
Yeah. It like has to do with it shows like different card like visuals depending on like if it's your card or your opponent's, if you can like
Hmm.
use it and stuff. Which is like okay, but it's like it'd be nice if you could see what your opponent like all the effects on them and stuff like that, which I don't think it shows.
Right.
I mean it's not completely necessary. These are really just like nice things to have, and I'm glad that Live has them. But
Right.
yeah,
Like
it'd be nice if you could also see your opponent's damage and all that stuff.
right. Like if you have a V Guard energy, you're going up against a Mew player, right? It'll tell you if you click on the Pokemon how many power tablets they played, but you have to do all the math in your head, right? And they have the DTE, and you can figure it out, but you've got to do the figuring there.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
the information that they give in that pop up for the Pokemon is useful, right? In terms of energies and what type and the attacks and all. So I think that's a plus from PTCGO. One of the good things. So that little box of next to the act to the Pokemon showing a summary of where that Pokemon's at, including I just think that's a good thing. So I just want to give them some credit there.
Yeah, and they also show that for like the player, so effects like ADP, they'll
Hmm.
show. Um,
Yeah. Um,
but yeah,
so
you have something you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, one of the basic things they need to get is be able to view your collection, right? It is okay. Maybe we shouldn't refer to it as a trading card game because you don't trade. Although I think the dusting system makes sense, so I don't take issue with that. But to look at your collection, you have to create a deck, right? You should be able to view your collection. It's just a basic function that people want, and they should have that, don't you think?
Yeah, especially when a lot of Pokemon like fans of the card game are collectors, and Pokemon knows that,
Yeah.
and I think it's just like a very logical thing to do.
Yeah. So, and PTCGO has more options in it for how you set the sound and the visuals. They've added some where you can reduce the effects, but in PTCGO, you could adjust for speed. You could also adjust for resolution. It had more options for tweaking the visuals and audios. And is a newer game, you'd expect it should have that even more, right? I mean, systems are better, but you want to allow people on older computers and devices to function properly also, so they should be able to kind of turn things down, let it have all the whistles and bells for a new system that likes it, but don't slow down the old systems, and they haven't addressed that very well yet.
Yeah, I don't think. I don't know. It's all like spaghetti code, so that's unfortunate because
Yeah,
that's definitely part of where PTCGO went wrong. And it became very difficult for them to fix bugs, and that was because of the spaghetti code on their end.
yeah,
Which like if you want to get something out quickly, like and not well, like so I do coding, and I know that it's easy to make like spaghetti code, but don't do that because it's gonna end badly, right?
yeah,
So yeah, make sure you like do it right in the first place. Otherwise, you're gonna end up in major problems, which they've clearly done stuff wrong. And so yeah, and I can't imagine that the people, um, it's probably like bad code makes it harder for people to work together, which will slow things down.
yeah.
Yeah, it's clearly not quite right.
Oh, that's a big issue and very concerning to me because I think PTCGO had spaghetti code, but it had been around so long. Because quite frankly, like playing a game like I like to play Balloons Tower Defense, it's much more is happening visually, so that and it's tracking a lot of things, right? All these balloons and towers and a lot of movement, so it's much more stressful on the computer, I would say. But the reality is that didn't heat up the computer much. But if I played a game in PTCGO, that heated up my computer, and so that was to be a bad sign that the code wasn't well written. But again, it was
Yeah.
over a long time. But this is a new product. They should have started with a clean slate, with a good plan. It shouldn't be spaghetti code now, but it seems like it is, and that's not a good sign for the future.
Yeah, I think
But
live and part of what people are hoping about was like um because I remember there was like some that Darwolf said they were like we take because everyone was saying like you're like really bad at like making games. So like we take pride in the work we make. We make good games. They like talked about other games they
hmm
made. They're like yeah like but I think part of it was they didn't have enough budget.
yeah,
Um. Or whatever reason, but they weren't like a bad company, but they were honestly probably a little embarrassed about PTCGO as well. Um, and I think people were thinking, oh, if Pokemon themselves makes live, they're gonna, and they don't want to make it bad because they'll be embarrassed about it. Clearly, they
yeah,
don't care about that, which is unfortunate. But yeah, unfortunately, live is it's not yeah, it's not good enough. One thing that I'd like, as I said,
hmm
I think like the expanded format, right? I don't think it's actually problematic that they don't have the full expanded format. I know many people are thinking it's very problematic, but
hmm
it's I don't know. The format's not very good, right? Um,
the
but
full expanded is that what you mean? It's not very good.
yeah, yeah. It's just a very toxic format.
Yeah.
But there's some really cool decks you can play in this expanded format. So I'm happy about that. And also like power creep's not as big of an issue, so that's nice.
hmm
But then I think it would be nice if they need some other format. Right now there's like two formats. An expanded beta. Now that like you and I have been playing it, we realize it's like actually a format. And some other people are also like actually playing it. I'd say like half the matches I get are like it's pretty like solid expanded beta decks,
hmm
live expanded decks. So I just realized when you switch between that when you click on the expanded and standard like badges, the font changes.
Uh,
Quite strange.
does it? Okay. Yeah. I mean, what they need to do though is you need to be able to. I'd like to see expanded with ranked, but you certainly should be able to invite your friends a friends challenge for expanded, right? They need that to make it more healthy, I think, because as long as you can't match, you can't do ranked, and you can't do friend requests, it's gonna make it not very popular. So that's unfortunate there, I think. I mean, I personally would like to see them have maybe the full expanded and this nerfed expanded actually going forward. They need some multiple formats. That's one of the things I put down, right? You had themed, expanded, legacy, and standard. In ranked, you only have one format, right? It's live is primarily a one format game right now, and that's not good for long term health, I think.
Yeah, one thing I want to say about themed though, themed is was like an amazing format in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Debatably the best format we've seen on Pokemon like that they officially supported. And part of that is you don't like people would very rarely do friend matches. It's not impossible that that happen, but
Right.
like really if those went in the game that would be a big deal. And I think that's okay for expanded here. Well for if it's an actual format, but like it's nice for people to be able to make their own formats. So that's why like unlimited and lot and PTCGO was so important. Even if
Mm-hmm.
they didn't have any of the other formats you could challenge each other in, you could just challenge each other in unlimited, and then just make sure you're playing the right decks, right? And then
Yeah.
you can make any rules you want. And I think one thing that Pokemon has to understand, and I think the players also need to understand, and I think they do, at least subconsciously, is that Pokemon TCG Live is not the like in-person Pokemon game. It's just not. It's a virtual game. It's like
Mm-hmm.
a video game. Um, and so it needs to be treated a little bit differently. And it has been in some ways, of course, especially with like the way of acquiring cards, which I think is done very well. That's like definitely the best part of Live. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. They need to, in my opinion, the biggest thing that Live needs is that the community and the creators are on the same page and they need to be supporting it and making it like
Yeah.
fun. And so like I think uh there are two ways this will go. One, the community will like support it when it goes um into like actual like the full game released,
Mm-hmm.
or it'll just like everyone will like trash on it. And I don't think like it's necessarily the community's job to like love it if it's bad. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think something big will have to happen when live like comes out fully. And Pokemon really needs to like show that it's good because they've been like showing it off. They've been like promoting it. but I don't know. They've always like seemed kind of withdrawn about it, and it's something because Pokemon, as we said, is like such a big media franchise
Yeah.
with super like iconic characters and such a big potential fan base. That if they can capitalize it, they can create a really good game here. But
Hmm.
we haven't seen that, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, one of the questions which raises up to me, I don't want to get on it too long, but where does this fit in the idea in their business model, and what about monetization, right? Because it's a game they make no money from. They didn't make anything from PTCGO. I guess in theory they could charge another 10 cents per pack because it includes the code card, but really they don't get any money from having an online game. So are they going to have some in-game microtransactions? They said they wouldn't, but I think that only definitively applied to the beta, which makes sense. Compared to a game like Magic, which is overly monetized, but it is monetized, and therefore it does help it be a better quality, better supported game with more formats. So, what does Pokemon see for the place of live within the video game, within the TCG and Pokemon as a whole? I don't know, and that's going to be important down the road.
Yeah, and I'm definitely like I'm interested in seeing what they can do because like it has so much potential.
Hmm.
Yeah, I just don't know. I think it would be cool also like to me, I think the one thing I want, obviously the game to work, but I would love it if you could change the rules. That's now I've decided that that's I think the number one thing I want. That
that,
you could like play an
that would be nice. I agree.
you could
You
like
could,
play it. You could do 40 card decks,
yeah.
more prizes. So you could play like pre-release format. You could do various things, but also like open it up to like the full expand format. But then you just do what you want. I think that would make it like so fun. And then obviously I'm a content creator. I think content creators are a very important part in like modern and like now for a successful game because if we see people like supporting it and like having fun with it, then that encourages other people to do it. Um, and also a lot of the content creators are very small. Pretty much, all the content creators are very small. So that's because like the online game really is what drives the content creation,
Hmm.
for a large part. So if the online game and then the content creators like come together, as said the community, but like if it creates a fun challenge experience for like content creators, I think that's a really nice, really good thing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it needs to be a little more supportive for content creators in general, and that's where like how you display your decks too. Even just a player, you would like to be able to look at your decks a little better. Certainly, it's not good for displaying in a video content. We all try to work around it. A couple things I'd like to see that I think one, the deck builder is one of the areas that needs a lot of work. Right, first, like I said, displaying your whole deck at once. When you import a deck, the fact that it shows up with whatever default art the game's chosen is the one you're supposed to have. And then it often shows up like you don't own the cards, even though you might own 12 of that card in different arts. That needs to get fixed. PTCGO is better with that. And I would really like it to see where you can pick your preferred arts for the cards, right? Because that's not that complicated to do. Like I said, a game like Magic Arena, you can do that. You can say, for this card, I want this art. I want this professor to show up each time, right? Again, it shouldn't be that hard. It would be very nice as a player to be able to do stuff like that. So some of the deck creation, customization, would be good. Even to be able to set, like, yes, you can change the deck box and sleeve and coin, but I have to manually change it for every time I make a new deck to the one I like. And why can't I just set it to be, I want this as my default. Let's go from there.
Yeah, definitely. I think like because as we said, collection has been like such a big part of the game. And like showing off cool arts is like fun as well. I personally don't like do that much because like as I said, the collection system is very good.
Hmm.
But like if you want to get everything, you don't like get the special arts. But I'd like it if you could like choose like make the deck importing easier as well. Like
Hmm.
and sometimes so I import expanded decks. I've been playing expanded beta, but that doesn't include all the cards expanded. And like you
Right.
import a deck, and you look at your Pokemon and you see like computer search, and you're like, what's happening here? Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be something nice for them to fix. But then yeah, I just think It would be like they need to improve the deck editor a lot. That's like definitely the biggest flaw here.
Yeah, the deck editor needs the biggest thing. I mean, well, and just obviously the playability, right? There's a lot of glitches. Some of them are playable glitches, like Gardevoir EX right now can't attach to a Pokemon if it got recovered, like through Miriam or Clara. It can't accelerate to it. Somehow it doesn't think that it's psychic anymore. Don't know what's going on with that. The fact that you hear the metal sound whenever a metal Pokemon becomes active, the fact that your glasses still don't work, which has basically been from day one. They just need to
I think
sun.
they might now. I think they
Do
might
they?
now.
Okay, mine's not, but maybe I
They
need to
oh
reset it. So
yeah, you need to reset it.
okay. All right, that'd be nice. Again, that's small. And other ones that are playable, they'll need to get fixed. Like when it shows you cards, like from a mulligan, some of the cards are just white, and with no information, and obviously that information could be important. I've had that issue with like something like trekking shoes. One of the cards is blank. Again, not good things. And what hasn't happened much to me, but I know it happens. It might be art dependent, but like when you play a quick ball or something, and you can't, or a nest ball, you can't actually pick certain cards for some reason. It just won't let you do it. I have had it with Comfy, and I think you have too, where I can only pick one of the two cards to go into hand. It just won't let me choose the other one. And again, that could be a game breaking problem for you. So things like that. Definitely, once it's out of expanded, I mean, out of the beta, those issues can't be around and linger like they have been.
Yeah. Oh, one thing that I've heard a few people complain about, but I want to
Hmm.
address is like so you can only have celebration packs are one way to acquire lots of resources, right? They're
Yep.
debatably the best. And check out Uncommon Fossils video actually, or multiple videos about like the economy, so you can learn more about that, which I
Thank you.
believe are super useful. I haven't watched them myself, but I'm sure they're very good. But like people complain that you can't like buy more than 400 celebrations packs. Like,
Right.
first of all, like you don't need that many packs. Like, I don't know what I'm like I've gotten essentially everything I needed. I didn't migrate, so I got stuff there, but I didn't spend any money, and I've been able to get everything I want. So like if you're using up all the things, if you're spending like hundreds of dollars on codes and then you still don't have the stuff you want, you're doing it wrong. First of all,
Yeah.
so yeah, you're just spending money and not getting where you should be getting. Definitely look into various ways to optimize the economy. You don't need celebrations packs. You could just get Shadow Rider decks as well.
Yeah.
But also like part of why that limitation is there is so that people don't like stop everyone else from getting everything, right?
Hmm.
Because there are definitely some people who would just buy all the codes. Please don't be the person who buys all the codes and then now no one else can like play the game because you took all the stuff. Um, but yeah, that just like there are some issues, but I would not say that is an issue with the game.
Yeah, and the 400 limitation is only for ones where you're entering the code from an IRL product. You can buy as
Yeah,
many. The cap doesn't apply to ones purchased in game, as far as I understand things.
yeah, and that's because there are an endless supply of them. I assume,
Okay. Yeah,
which would
and
make sense.
yeah, so that's a good point. And I do think at some point they might let us buy crystals or credits for money in game. I don't know if that'll be good or bad. It actually could be a good move. I'm not sure. But
Yeah,
if it's only as long as live only loses the company money, which is what it does now, it they're going to be limited to how much money, how much resources they want to spend developing it. So that's a concern. But we'll see what happens. But I do want to talk about some of the pluses to live also. You ready to dive into that?
sure. I think we're almost out of time, but
We
that's
are.
fine.
I
This won't
just
take
wanted to
too
hit
long.
this quickly though, right? As we've said, we've touched
I thought we've talked about them
well,
all.
the economy is better, right? And I think the dusting crafting system is better than trading.
Yeah, definitely. The trading system was like really bad.
Yeah, that led to a lot of toxicity and a lot of there were trades just to scam new players, which was really bad, right? You're new to the game. Oh, you just traded away your computer search for one, nest ball. Congratulations, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and even more like like tricky things. Like there were these like packs that like kind of existed.
hmm
People, it was really bad. The economy was run by like people who just like tried to repeat like their whole like they spent their whole like week trying to like rip people off on PTCGO. Like that's
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, and the fact, yeah, and the whole it would take you like 10 minutes to load up all the trades and all that stuff. So it's good, good. Glad to be going past. I do think I like the fact that you can buy the IRL products in the in-game store. That's a plus. You couldn't do that before, and even the packs you could buy in PTCGO, but you couldn't buy the special packs from the special sets, and you can get that in game now. So that's a plus. I think, and the fact the starter decks are good, right? Before starting in themed and having to grind through those ugly starter decks and the trainer challenges wasn't a good welcome to new players. So the fact the starter decks are a decent place to begin for new players, I think they've done a good job at that of making it is more new player friendly, which is important for growing the game, and the economy and resource getting is improved in live. So that gives some hope for the future, I think.
Yeah. Oh, one other issue. One thing I don't love about live again is as realistically that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's is that the when you create a new account, you need to do it with your like play Pokemon ID or something like
Yeah.
that. And that I don't
Hmm.
think that's good. As I said, it's different. It's not IRL Pokemon. It's not competitive Pokemon. I don't think you should need that. Maybe you probably need like like an email account or something, but which is common. But like people, this will actively deter people if they need to create like extra accounts. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that's like not good.
Well, that's where what does Pokemon see the value of this product? I think with the online client or live, I think from their business model, it's there to get people into the IRL scene and to get because that's where they're making the money. So that's really the only way it helps them. So therefore, creating the account online is necessary from their business model, I think. But that probably isn't the best thing. Make this more of a standalone product. Let people
Yeah.
understand that people just will play this and have some way to get at least some money, right? I think it's fair. Let people be able to play for free like they do now, but let people, purchase some things with some money to move through faster. I think that there's some fair way to work that out.
Yeah, especially with because I think you probably agree with me with this. I'm not sure if you do, but I think live is the future of Pokemon, or the Pokemon TCG. And if they don't like nurture it and care about it, Pokemon TCG will kind of die. It's like we've seen after like COVID, like
Hmm.
it's kind of dying, not in terms of the competitive IRL scene, but in everywhere else. And the competitive IRL scenes are very, very small. So, if that's what they're relying on to like keep it alive, the game's not going to grow. The game's just going to kind of die out over time. And like we've seen everything just kind of like fizzle out after COVID. Like
Hmm.
certainly we've seen like YouTube grow a little, but we haven't seen it grow a ton. We haven't seen most things grow a ton. It's just kind of Pokemon struggling. This is like the thing they need to finally like to make the TCG like a really big mark, especially like playing the TCG, not just collecting the TCG.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there was a lot of growth with PTCGO during COVID. I think most of the content creators are IRL players, right? Because that's where they started, and the number of people in IRL events are big. So a lot of people see that the game is healthy.
Yeah, I
But
mean
but
it's not that bigger than it used to be, but
correct, it is. But it's
not as
still a
big as Cope.
right. It's still a small numbers of people compared to the number of people I think playing online, and it's always going to stay that way. So I think there needs to be more of a focus on live on the online client, making it into something uh, its own thing. And they probably need to figure out this whole mobile situation because, like you said, they've been pushing the mobile, and it's a big potential market. But the Pokemon TCG is a long game. It's hard to look at a whole big bunch of cards on your phone screen. So I don't know that it makes a successful mobile game in the long run. That's an
Yeah,
issue they got to sort
yeah,
out.
yeah. And I think honestly, if they make a mobile, like they might need to completely rework the TCG and like change the mechanics of the game to make it like a mobile game. Because mobile obviously is a big market, but really it's like you have like 5 minutes on the toilet to play a game and that's it. So, yeah. But I think that's what where we should end it for today. I got to get off the toilet and start getting back to my day. So I think it's time we wrap things up.
Sounds good.
Anything else you gotta end with?
No, I mean, let's fingers crossed that there's an improvement as it goes out of beta. That's where we're at now.
Yep. And I've been 10 Types. You've been joined by Uncommon Fossil. This is the Reasonably Effective Podcast, episode 16.
16.
16?
Yep.
Yeah, we're growing. Yay. We're getting better. I don't know. But yeah, we hope you enjoyed. Of course, check us out on YouTube, Spotify,
And
other
any other
stuff.
podcast platform should
Yeah.
be there.
But we hope you enjoyed. As always, we're excited to see you next time.
Take care.